Welcome to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery with me, your host, Master Addiction Specialist, Trisha Peredo. You are in the right place if you have battled any chemical addiction, struggle with your relationship with food, consistently shop impulsively, are a chronic people pleaser, can't survive without your morning visit to the gym, or any other habit that is holding you hostage. Hello. Welcome back to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery. This week, you guys are in for a big treat. We are going to be talking about limiting beliefs. But before we dive into our topic, right? And I know that it's a big topic. People are really chatting about this right now. And I just think it's so interesting. So I'm excited about this. But before we do, I want to introduce you guys. This is Coach Mari, and she's recently joined our team and is just an amazing woman. And I just can't wait for her to tell you all about herself. So anyway, Mari, you know me. I like everybody to get in here, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Trisha. That was such a beautiful introduction. My name is Mari Sullivan, and I am a life and recovery coach here at Turning Leaves Recovery.
Thank you. I get so giddy. I'm always just so excited when I have amazing people join the team, because it just sets my soul on fire. So, before we go into it, right? Like, sure, you're a recovery life coach, and for our followers, we all know that when we talk about recovery, we're talking about life recovery from all things, right? Like, it can
Absolutely.
be process addiction, behavior addiction. It can be a chemical addiction. It could just be, I don't know, struggles of life. Right? Like, we all get stuck by something at some point. But, and Mari really specializes in a lot of those, and she'll tell you about that later. But, first, I always like to hear this story, and I want to know a little bit more again. So I'm sure that there's some layer that I missed or that you're going to unveil today that I didn't know. So, when we're talking about, being in this space, most of us have a reason or a purpose or a drive that brought us here. So if you don't mind, within your comfort, of course, what is that passion? What is that thing that in your life really brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. So it was about 3 years ago that I had hit my rock bottom and kind of jumped right into all of the therapies and recoveries and was on my healing journey. And I was starting to notice a pattern within myself that there was something more, that more therapy or more recovery just wasn't addressing. And I knew that it wasn't just me. Listening to other people and having conversations with other people all had the same problem as far as the issues that they were struggling with, the same patterns, the same problems, and they were just exhausted. And as I was trying to really dive into the internet, Googling everything to figure out where the answer was, I realized that I had to create my own answer. And once I had discovered that for myself, I was really passionate to find a way to then share it to others that I knew were struggling.
That is so amazing. And I totally relate to that. In my journey, standardized treatment, sure, I visited it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I visited it, but it wasn't the answer to my more than 30 years of conditioned way of being. And standardized treatments weren't going to teach me how to experience my environment different. They weren't going to, how do you go grocery shopping without going down the alcohol aisle if every other time you've gone down the alcohol aisle since, you were not even legal to drink? Like, how do you not go down that aisle? Or, how do you manage going down that aisle? Anyway, all the things, right? There's just so many things that make up our life that standardized treatments just, they just don't touch it all. And so, yeah, we have to seek additionals or, whatever, like specialized focus and find those answers. And as we all know, like it's kind of how everything Turning Leaves got born, was digging in and diving in and then marrying it to methods and modalities that we could use practically in our life. Anyway, so that is amazing because so many people, you are right, are sitting out there in recovery, not satisfied with, or feeling flat or not feeling, the euphoria that they thought, that the rest of us talk about, right? Like I talk about sobriety being like the best thing ever. Like I'm so much more fun now. I'm, happier, just all the things. And people are like, I don't feel that at all. Right. So talk to me about, about some of these things. I know that, again, there's a mindset that you believe really played a significant role for you, but that you've also uncovered plays a significant role in a lot, just to not say most people, because I hate to, like say most people, because although I would say most people.
Sorry, what was your question?
That mindset that you uncovered, that you see most people also are experiencing.
The mindset that I saw people experiencing was the fact that they just kept digging into their problems. And there's a difference between choosing the negative, talking about the same problems, the same friends, the same family, the same addictions, or whatever the case may be. But there's a lot more in the mindset shift of not toxic positivity, but to make a conscious effort to talk about positive things to restructure the brain in a more progressive and healing way. Because we're never going to get to where we want to go if we keep swimming in what we don't want, right?
Absolutely. I call it ruminating, wallowing, and languishing.
And I don't think a lot of people realize they're doing that. They go to the rooms, they go to the therapy, and they think, well, here's my stuff, like fix it. And as helpful as therapy and the recovery rooms are, and I think it's such a crucial part to the healing process, there's definitely that shift into, okay, well, now I've worked through all of my problems. Now, how do I start to act differently moving forward and getting out of these roles, getting out of these limiting beliefs that keeps me stuck? How do I start changing?
Absolutely. I feel that. I mean, I've been there. I'm not there, but I've been there. And I like that. I like that you're able to pull that out as a singular thing that people can say, like, I just need to fix that. Right. I just need to fix that. And because I think sometimes, we broad brush and like you were saying, right, that, I'm going to the rooms, I'm sitting in the rooms and I'm talking about my stuff and I'm sharing my story with other people, right? That keeps, and don't anybody bash me. I'm not bashing the rooms, right? Because I think the rooms hold a big purpose. But when we sit and we talk and we share our story, like we're keeping it alive. We're keeping it present. And sure, I share my story, but it gets, depending on who I'm talking to, like I can rattle through it in 2 seconds when it's a really long story. Right.
Well, I just want to interject really quick because I do think that there is a purpose in telling our story, because a lot of us haven't been heard or seen in the problems and validated. And it is so important for those rooms for that purpose. But I think where the turning point is that a lot of people don't understand, that is the thing that I've kind of discovered in my own healing, is there's a turning point to like, yes, I've talked about all of the problems. I've been heard on all of the things. I've had the therapist like validate everything. And now it's time for something different, because I think people get stuck in, well, I'm still not feeling good, let me pick up another therapy, or I'm not feeling good, so let me pick up another meeting. And those rooms are designed to be heard in those really hard conversations. But at some point, it's a season. At some point, we need to leave those rooms and move on to the next thing.
Yes. Amen. So how do people start to step out?
Well, one of the things that I started doing was I started just jumping into what did my future look like? And that did challenge the roles and the limiting beliefs that I had ingrained. Because yes, I had all the problems that I talked about, and then I had this place of where I wanted to go. But there was this whole growth process of this role that I was still playing, this limiting belief that I still had. And that was what really needed to break, because from where I was to where I needed to go was really a transition through the limiting belief that I could even be the person that I wanted to start becoming.
So that was the metamorphosis, right? Like that transcendence, the, whatever, we could pick all kinds of adjectives, right? That are good for that. But because I think this one phrase, and that I wrote down, and I think it's important. If we're playing a role, right? Like if we're playing a role, we're not the star of our own show. Right? So if we're not showing up genuine, authentic, transparent, right? Then we're putting on a facade, and it's, and people in trauma do it all the time, right? Like you put on a happy face when you go out, and everybody thinks everything's always great, but inside, you're living in turmoil or an abusive relationship or whatever. We need to be a little bit more authentic in order to allow that change or that transition or transformation to truly begin. And sure, it's uncomfortable. But I think, probably one of the critical things that you probably have some great tips on is, that sitting in and moving through it, right? Kids have growing pains all the time, right? Whether it's their feet or it's just adolescence, right? Right? We're going to always have, things are always going to be uncomfortable. So how did you, or how did you yourself, or how did you help others, or how do you help others? Wow, that was kind of a mess. Sit in and move through, right? Like, how do you do that transition, that transformation process?
So it's not as simple as the breakdown, but here is the simple breakdown that is a lot more complex that I'm going to address. But understanding that, for one, there's a limiting belief and there's the mindset, and then understanding where you want to go. And then there's all these complex roots inside, as far as that change is uncomfortable, and people tend to avoid the uncomfortable or avoid the overwhelming of the identity shift. And when we believe that we can be something, it helps. That belief helps us through the uncomfortable stuff, because the overwhelm is going to happen and the uncomfortable is going to happen. And just knowing, not only is it the mindset that can help change us and transition us to where we want to be, but also understanding that it is a uncomfortable and overwhelming process that's not supposed to feel good in the beginning. But the more that we do it, and the more that we take the action that takes the courage to just do the thing anyway, then all of a sudden we can look back on our yesterdays or the last hours or last weeks and realize that we're not the same person as long as we're taking those small baby steps.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. I'm very, very frequently speechless. Right. So, but I like that you said, that it's a lot more detailed, and it takes a lot more time than you think. Like, sure, I can rattle off the alphabet, right? Like, to get from A to Z, you got to do B through Y, and we can rattle it off really easily. But there's critical components that actually happen in each one, and you have to be willing to do one at a time and take the time that it takes to do each one. And everybody's different. People ask me all the time, like, how long is program going to be? Well, I don't know. Right? I don't know you well enough yet to know how long we're going to be working together. Right? Sometimes I do. I can give you a guess. I can give you a guideline. But I don't know you, and I don't know how hard you plan on working. Right?
Yeah.
But so you're right. Like there's the superficial, right? Like, this is the action we're going to do, but then all the work has to happen underneath it.
Yeah. And I do want to point out that as we're having this conversation, to anybody who's listening, those steps forward doesn't always have to be recovery based. It could be a new hobby. It could be new circles of people, and all of those new experiences that helps carve out who we ultimately want to be, helps drive us towards that recovery in the first place. But it's the limiting belief of, oh, I can't be that person, or I don't go to those things, or I can't, it's all of those types of narratives that keep people stuck, keep people depressed, and then keeps people going back into the rooms wondering, how do I get better?
100%. 100%. So this is very awesome. I like that. So we have a reason, we have a purpose, we have an emotional space that we start in. We have a thing that's holding us back. And we have steps. Well, we kind of know what we would rather it look like, right? But I want to go there in just a minute. We have the steps that we can take to get us to this, wherever it is, right? So generally speaking, what does that outcome look like for you when you got through the process? Like, is there a big aha? Is it a big relief? I know everybody's always looking for that magic fix, and so I always like to keep it real.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the trickery of the whole process, because there is no, here is the door to walk through. You just start doing the uncomfortable things and have the faith that change of pattern and habits is going to get you there. And it's more so like when I look back on, say, my yesterday or my last month, and I go, I remember thinking this, that, and the other, and I'm not thinking those things anymore. I can't pinpoint when that was, which I think is that aha moment that you mentioned that people are looking for to show their progress of healing. And it's not necessarily, this is the moment, this is the second that I've transitioned. It's oh, wow, I can look back on myself last year, last week, last month, and notice the things either in my brain or in my environment, or things that I'm doing, or my confidence level that is starting, that I don't feel the same that I did before. And that is when you take that moment to look back, is more, I guess, of the aha moment that people are looking for, that shows the growth. But you're not going to get that aha moment until you've done so many different changes in your life to get there in the first place. If you just do one thing, and then it's like working out, right? You can go to the gym and do this like 1 hour exercise, 2 hour exercise, and you look in the mirror and you still look the same. But it's the faith that if you keep working out, that one day you're going to look in the mirror and go, oh, wow, my pants are a little bit more loose, or this part is a little, looking more toned. It's more of that same concept.
100%. That was spot on. So perfectly said. And I think everybody needs to think about that, right? Like I've had people, oh, just tell me the thing I need to do to make this go away, da da da. I'm like, honey, if I had a magic phrase, like I'd have a line wrapped around the planet and I would just have a take one, right? Like I wouldn't even have to do any work. So you're so right. And I can definitely validate that, that's what it looks like when you realize like, woo, yeah. Like I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just so much softer in my nature, right? And I love it. And I'm not easily reactive, right? Like I just don't get reactive. I don't overreact. I don't, all the things. Like my list is long and I don't want to get into it, but it's 100%. It's I'm still me, still the same person, but behaviors and mannerisms and outlooks and perceptions and perspectives can change so much that you can't help but to see rainbows, right?
Absolutely. Just the same as when you're, working out and you feel better. When you lose the reactivity, you feel better. And when you grow the confidence of the new circles that you're surrounding, you feel better. And when you change the thought patterns of shifting from negative thought patterns to positive thought patterns until the positive thought patterns become more routine, it's really nice to have your subconscious just tell you something nice and look back and go, oh, it was all that work in the past that I've been doing every day for my recovery that got me to this, what you would say, aha moment.
What an amazing journey. What an amazing gift. I, again, feel nothing but blessed and overjoyed to get to work with you.
I'm really excited to be working with you too. I have been learning so much, integrating what I've learned and integrating it with turning leaves and seeing where they weave, where they come together and where they're different, and how at the end of the day, they are both, the turning leaves program is really good for really pointing out all of the steps in a different way that is still beneficial. And it has even helped me like just kind of polish out my own recovery.
Yes. Well, and absolutely, because when we have that practical application of the psychological skill sets and tactics that allow us to create whatever we want to create, like sky's the limit. It's all about knowing how to practically apply it in different categories for different situations and different topics, or whatever it is. And that's that's why we have to kind of be so hands-on and guide our clients so much, because then that way can be utilized in so many different areas for so many different situations, whether it's your limiting beliefs, or it's your relationship with alcohol, or myself and a lot of the people that I work with, food addiction, your relationship with the mirror on the wall, things like that, right? So yeah, it is. And it's such a blessing. So wow, I want to thank you so much for coming in and recording such an amazing, informative, and helpful episode. I can't wait for it to be out there for people to get to sit and listen to. Do you have anything parting? If you were to give everybody, like 1 to 3 things that they could do right now to make one little small change today, what would that be?
Oh gosh, so many things, but as it pertains to this topic, and maybe the most important thing is to start to notice the mindset shift, because it's the negative thoughts that keeps us in the stuck roles, that keeps us under the limiting beliefs. So maybe it's some sort of acknowledgement, whether that's journaling or just noticing or affirmations. When you're noticing a negative thought pattern, to shift it to the positive, because that's going to break the limiting beliefs. It's going to aid your recovery, and it's going to get you to where you want to go, so you're not continuing to go into the rooms with the same problems again.
Yes. Yes. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Trisha.
Absolutely. Mari's information is going to be either down below in the show notes, or depending upon where you're watching this, right? It's going to be down below. Just reach out. We're always here.
Yes.
Thank
So
you
happy to help
much.
anybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please make sure and come back every week. We will have a new guest who will sit down and have a deep, real conversation with me about informative, helpful tools and tactics, as well as a guided approach to recovery. You will absolutely walk away with insight and tools that you can use in your day-to-day life. We also have a very special Mastering the Drop episode that comes out once a month, where we have a special guest who shares their recovery journey and what it looks like now. So make sure you're paying attention to the episodes. In fact, go in and subscribe. I'd also like to invite you to go over to www.turningleavesrecovery.com and subscribe to our newsletter so that you can stay up to date with free tools as well as specials. But most of all, make sure to grab a conversation with me. It's completely safe, and it's the best way for me to help point you in the right direction. Have a great day.